go ahead and clap. President says it's okay. A-OK here, JD. Good to have you on board. Thanks, as always, for taking some of your time to spend it with us here on the program where intellectual anarchy is encouraged and nurtured. For now, Jesse producing the program, Don producing, working the dials, Mike screening the calls, emails at the website, jerrydoyle.com. And the poll question up there for you today. Repubs and Dems on the Dirty Dozen Super Committee are agreeing to a $200 billion tax increase, which is 1/6 of their $1.2 trillion goal to reduce the deficit and the debt. So I asked the question, which of the following would not be affected? Social Security recipients, veterans benefits, military pensions, Medicaid, or congressional salaries and pensions? Is that one? Stevie Wonder sees that one coming. Congressional salaries and pensions, 96% of the people are saying yes. Now, Jesse and I and Don and Mike all clicked on veterans benefits because we were trying to throw you off. It's so obvious that these tools on Capitol Hill are so in it for themselves. Remember the Republicans said no new tax increases? We're not going to agree to any tax increases? I guess it depends upon what your definition of a tax increase is, because I'm going to tell you how they're defining it as revenue or changes or enhancements or adjustments to existing programs that would result in what could be perceived to be, by any other term, a tax increase to the tune of $200 billion. Way to go, Republicans. Way to go. Good thing you signed those pledges. Good thing. Oh, not one more dime, not one more day. Well, there's a new day in the Republican Party. And I guess in the footsteps of the Rush Limbaugh Operation Chaos. That's a chaos, Mr. Snerdley. We're going to introduce chaos into the Democrat Party. Apparently chaos now reigning supreme in the Republican Party. RedState.com. Eric Erickson writes about Mitt Romney, where conservatism dies and Obama wins. And now Eric Erickson, who was a darling of the Republican Party, a darling of the conservative movement, a darling of all things Red State, hence the name of his website, redstate.com, is now being thrown under the bus by some in the Republican Party because he's questioning the viability of Mitt Romney. He's questioning the conservative credentials of Mitt Romney. He's suggesting Obama is going to win. Conservatism is going to wane, if not die. And it's time for them to take him out to the woodshed and remind him that as a good Republican, as a good conservative, you must get on board with whoever it is they throw our way. Now he's a bad, 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 bad man. Very bad, 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 bad man. American Spectator, Joe Lawler, writes about Eric's writing, where he says about writing off the GOP field. A takedown of Mitt Romney, arguing that Romney will win the primary and then lose to Obama, killing off conservatism. Now, he says, I recommend Eric Erickson's piece, not because he's supposed to be taken as some kind of authority on what constitutes conservatives, but because he consolidates key data points on Romney's shortcomings into one post. He also goes on to talk about Senator Jim DeMint, who has not endorsed anyone in the primary. Is that DeMint's strategy for 2012? DeMint's indifferent amongst the presidential candidates, which is to say none of them appeals to him in a special way, and that DeMint's real plan is the focus on getting conservatives elected in the Senate. And he writes here that DeMint's silence on the presidential race is significant because his endorsement alone, without finance attached, is valuable, especially in South Carolina. Now think about what we're seeing going on here. Jim DeMint, who we have on this program many times, we like when he comes on the program, because the first time he came on the program, what is it, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, he said the American people should fire every one of us in Congress because we're not doing the job. And I was like, wow, how refreshing is that? And Jim DeMint has been what they would consider to be a conservative's conservative. But Jim DeMint says that he is not going to back any of the presidential contenders in the Republican field right now. And his word still carries weight. But it's interesting that when Ron Paul, he says that he's not excited about any of the current potential Republican nominees outside of himself, and that unless they get hip to what needs to be done with spending and smaller government and taking a look at the Fed and our foreign policy, well, if you're Ron Paul and if you're being talked about on Fox News, the Fox babes and boys on the 5 on Fox think Ron Paul is persona non grata and should be eliminated from the debates.
This is what's wrong with Ron Paul right there, because everyone else in the field says, look, if I don't win, I'm supporting the Republican, conservative or not, just like all that. And I'll be out there if it's Mitt Romney.
I think Huntsman said he wouldn't.
Okay, well, I said conservative or not, and Republican.
Okay.
Huntsman, I wouldn't characterize.
Fair point.
But here he is saying, if it's not me, then it's none of you guys. Forget it. I'm out of it. You know what? That doesn't go. And by the way, 7%, I'm going to sell that number.
Well, if he's not going to support the Republican, then take him out of the Republican debates if he's so anti.
That's a great point.
Party.
All right.
And that's fair and balanced. If Ron Paul doesn't agree to get on board with any of the Republicans who he doesn't think is deserving of his support, eliminate him. Get rid of him. Off to the political gallows, off with his head. Because he's not a cheerleader. He's not on board. I wonder if they're going to say the thing about Jim DeMint. Because Jim DeMint's not excited about any of the Republican nominees either. Jim DeMint's focus is on the Senate. And at the end of this piece, Lawler writes in the American Spectator, the more Tea Party types there are in the House and Senate, the better a President Romney looks, something that's true of Obama, because they're going to be pushing either of them in a more fiscally responsible direction. And then he ends with this question. Better to just write the presidency off and get to work on other elections? Question mark? Possibly. Possibly. Maybe the focus now is on getting conservatives, real conservatives, elected to the Senate. Maybe it's about getting real conservatives elected, period. And maybe it's not just about getting on board with whoever it is that the establishment thinks it should be and telling us that that's the person we have to get behind, which kind of ties in a little bit about what we were talking about yesterday on the show, how I'm the problem. It's people like me, the 6th largest show in America, as rated by Talkers Magazine. I am helping to undermine the Republican cause, Herman Cain, Mitt Romney, etc. And it's people like me. They're going to cause Barack Obama to get reelected, which is funny because that's exactly what Eric Erickson writes about in redstate.com, where he said Mitt Romney will not win in 2012, but no worry, once he loses, establishment types and Republican suck-ups are going to blame conservatives for not doing enough for Mitt Romney, even though Mitt Romney can't do enough for Mitt Romney himself when he only gets 25% of the support of GOP voters. It's not his fault. It's the 75%ers that are to blame. He said Mitt Romney is going to be the Republican nominee, which is what we said on this program. Why? Because that's the way the crony capitalist and the political elite and the establishment want it to be. They want it to be Mitt Romney. And if it's going to be Mitt Romney, then you better get on board. And he said the general election campaign will be an utter disaster for conservatives as he takes the GOP down with him and burns up what it means to be a conservative in the process. And he said the only reason Romney is going to be the nominee outside of the political establishment deciding that he's going to be the guy is because right now the other candidates are a pathetic lot, and they are. That's the reality, folks. You can blame me all you want. You can say it's my fault. I'm the reason McCain lost to Obama. I'm going to be the reason Romney loses to Obama. It's my fault. It's not Mitt Romney's fault. It's not John McCain's fault. It's not the Republican Party's fault. It's not the NRCC or the Republican Senatorial Committee. It's none of those. No, it's not Fox News. It's not the cheerleaders like Limbaugh and Hannity and Levin. Rah, rah, sis, boom, bah, anybody but Obama. No. And he even talks about the cheerleaders in his piece at redstate.com. He said, there's largely been emboldened a conservative media so used to standing by its man that too few are telling Herman Cain that he is now at the point where he must actually sit and answer questions whenever he wants to or not. There was an op-ed piece written about Herman Cain, about how this attack on him is purely racist, that support for Herman Cain is real, but the attacks on Herman Cain are racially motivated. A black conservative who's managed an escape from the liberal plantation. So I guess the question I have for Jeffrey Lord at the American Spectator in understanding the Cain attack is, if support for Cain is what it is, unconditional, and if the attacks on Cain are what they are, unconditionally racially motivated, is the support for Cain racially motivated? You'd have to question why people don't question the candidates before it comes time for us to find out things that we should have known a long time ago. But when you're a cheerleader, it doesn't matter if you run on the field and your uniform's on backwards. They still cheer for you. It doesn't matter if you score for the other team by mistake. That was just a mistake. You'll do better next time. There are Republican cheerleaders out there who have given us these zeros disguised as heroes that they think are going to take down the socialist President Obama, which Erickson in his piece says should not even be a consideration. But it is. Why? Because we consider losers. We consider zeros as heroes. We have people out there that are supporting people who don't even have an inkling of what it takes to be a conservative, have not proven themselves to be conservative, and don't deserve the accolades given by those who are trying to yet once again Dole us, McCain us, or Romney us as we watch Barack Obama be reelected in 2012.
The Jerry Doyle Show.
Now, I know there's a lot of people out there in the Republican Party that are circling like a dog looking for a place to take a crap. You don't really know what to do. How do I interpret this? I'm going left. I'm going right. I'm spinning here. I'm stopping there. What do I do? Is it here? Is it there? Now? Is he making sense? He can't be making sense. Wait a minute. DeMint? Erickson? The American Spectator? What do I do? Hold on. Let me turn on Rusher Hannity so I can be reminded of what I'm supposed to think and how deep my principles are and how the core of my conviction will percolate to the surface when I take out my pom-poms and I cheer, go, Mitt, go! 800-876-4123.
The Jerry Doyle Show.